Mr. Howe will not be here this evening. His daughter's at a sectional game in Elkins, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
To start, we have two community members here to speak that were unable to attend last week, so we'll follow the same format we did. We'll ask them both to come up for up to 5 minutes, have them speak, and then we'll run through the budget binder and answer all of council's questions. First, we have Mendy Scott for Homes for Harrison. Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Mindy Scott. I'm the Executive Director of Homes for Harrison. Homes for Harrison is an agency, and we try to help whoever we can, however we can, when they're struggling with homelessness. Sometimes that starts with something small, we think is small, a birth certificate. Some people, if you're living on the streets or struggling with homelessness, couch surfing, going from house to house, you don't really have a safe place to keep your essential documents. So that's where we begin. Anybody that comes into our office that does not have a birth certificate, social, photo ID, we try to make that happen. We've had people that have came from as far as California, didn't need a birth certificate, who were born in California. We've had people that in Clarksburg that need help getting a birth certificate. Without a birth certificate, you can't get a photo ID. Without a photo ID, you can't get employment. Without photo ID and a birth certificate, you can't get help with housing. And therefore, there are a lot of people struggling just because of those things that we think is small. So I always try to start out at the beginning. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? So that's usually how it starts. A lot of people, when they get housing assistance, you might get your rent covered for a while, but that security deposit is huge to someone who has nothing. As you all know, rent is outrageous now. Like I'm going to say the lowest amount is probably $600 to $700, up to $1,200. I've seen it lots of times and people don't have that. You know, if you're just starting out, or maybe you just got into housing, you don't have that. You have no way of even thinking about that, because that's not something that's on your mind. So that is basically our primary goal, is to get anybody and everybody that we can off the street. Not saying that that's always possible, because we have a thing, we don't want to set you up for failure. We don't want to help you get into housing tomorrow and then next month you get evicted. We don't want that to happen. So we do help with budgeting, couponing, just ways to save money that once you get into housing so you don't fail. We've attempted a few times it's called a neighbors program, and it would be a volunteer that would say, I want to help. So if it's somebody who's new in housing or hasn't been in housing in a very long time, maybe you just need to check on them once a week. Hey, have you took your garbage out? Hey, don't forget garbage goes, whatever day. Because if you haven't done that, you don't know and you don't remember. So we did ask for a little bit more this time around, because like I said, rent has went up. And we have a very small budget, so we help who we can, but of course it's never going to be enough. But we hope to just keep people off the streets. Like I said, we do a lot of budgeting, resume writing, job searching, house searching, applying for housing assistance, because a lot of people don't even know that exists. And I keep back looking, when I was 18, 19 years old, I didn't know that existed either. So we just kind of keep trying to get the word out. This is what you could do, this is what's available, and try to help them as much as possible. And that's Homes for Harrison.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Did you lose your office space?
What was that?
Did you lose your office space? Did I see that somewhere?
We did lose our office space, so I'm kind of moving all over the place. So wherever I can meet, the library or Uptown, we're outside in my car, wherever I can meet. Like sometimes I'll just go to them, so that's even better.
What happened? It was-
So that building, they're gonna turn into an apartment office. So they used my little space for that, so.
So you just need a place though? You'll be able to operate?
Sometimes I think we do need a space, because I have a lot in my house. Like I have an extra bedroom, so I'm kind of like filing cabinet, keep all my records there. But to actually meet someone, sometimes it would be like today it's storming. After I leave here, I'm gonna go meet someone, but luckily it's inside. But I'm just saying that sometimes I think about that, like maybe we get in an office again, but so far it's worked out.
So Mindy, were you at the housing authority or?
I work both jobs now. I work at for Homes for Harrison and I work at the Housing Authority. So this kind of works out hand in hand, so I can inform people, and I try not to let the two mesh. So I've had people come in and ask me like, oh, or they'll get an application and they'll say, well, I don't have a birth certificate. Turn around, Mindy, I know someone that can help you, and I give them my information. So after work, then. So it kind of works out like that, so I can inform people of what their options are. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jim Krim for the Historical Society.
This is Colonel Pete Taylor. He will be speaking on our behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening. I'm Pete Taylor. I am representing the Harrison County Historical Society tonight. In the past, the Historical Society has requested funds for the operation of the County Historical Society, specifically for the care and restoration of and historic preservation of the Staley Goff Vance House on Main Street. Once again, we're here to request additional funding to assist this significant city landmark. For those who are not aware of the significance of this place, the Staley Goff House, also known as the Amy Roberts Vance House, is a historic home at 123rd West Main Street here at Clarksburg. The house is listed on the National Historical Registry, and which indicates that it is deemed worthy of preservation. The house was originally built in 1807, or about that time. Records are kind of scarce at this point. And it's a gabled, roofed, two-story brick dwelling. And it's been stated that it was the first brick home built west of the Allegheny Mountains. So that gives it some historical significance. It sits on a high-course rubble foundation. The house was remodeled in 1891 with addition of Victorian embellishments. The Historical Society has taken steps towards rehabilitation and restoration of this house. We've communicated with the West Virginia State Historical Society and preservation offices about plans for the house. They've advised us to pursue a structural assessment. This is going to bypass one of the steps in requesting a grant once we have this done. Over the past few months, the Historical Society has prepared the house for this assessment. We basically have had to remove almost all of the furnishings from the place so that they can come in and get a very accurate measurement using electronic devices to determine exactly what needs to be done to the building itself, to determine if there's any significant damages. We've had the help of a multitude of people and organizations in the city here helping us move things out of there and into storage. The WYK Associates are going to evaluate the need for stabilization, rehabilitation, and restoration, and will provide us a very detailed report of what needs to be done to basically save the building. We've spoken to the Harrison County Commission about a potential special funding request to assist us with some of the costs related to this restoration. So what do we need from the city of Clarksburg? We need some funding. Everybody needs funding, I'm sure. We need funding to help cover the cost of this structural assessment. The assessment is going to run about $40,000. We've raised a significant amount of money to cover that through private donations from some of our membership. We're requesting $5,000 to assist us in this effort to cover the delta that will have difficulties covering. And part of this money will actually go to maintaining the necessary environmental HVAC support systems for the building to keep it from deteriorating any further. So what is our vision for this house? Well, we see the Vance House of the future as a multi-use facility with historical significance and authenticity. We envision a space that's more than just a house museum. You know, I've always said that after you visited Mr. Jefferson's home, the rest of them are just old houses. So we don't want it just to be an old house. Although it may contain some museum quality items, we expect that we could see the house as a prime location for meetings, receptions, public programs, and other events. Similar to what is done in Barber County with Adeline House. We'll need some help from the city developing and articulating this vision so it fits the cultural and economic development goals of the city and the county. We'd like to see the space produce revenue of some sort to offset the cost that we have to maintain. It can be used for a variety of events. Pre-COVID, we used the house as an educational center for high school students. I conducted a number of tours of the house with students from Byrd and from Liberty and from Lincoln over the, like I say, pre-COVID, and we would discuss the history of Harrison County and the history of Clarksburg and how significant this particular location was to the city. The house is also a stop currently on the Clarksburg Museum's bus tour that they do, although it's just a stop. At some point in time, we could see that this building would be not only a stop, but potentially we could accommodate these tours and with a brief look into high society in Clarksburg in the 1800s, the early 1800s in particular. In conclusion, this is a wonderful property in our city that needs to be renovated and restored to ensure that it doesn't just become another old building that needs to be torn down. In the words of William Murtaugh, first keeper of the National Register of Historic Places, quote, "It's been said that at its best, preservation engages the past in a conversation with the present over a mutual concern for the future." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Are there any questions?
You said you talked to the county, how much are they?
Well, we haven't come up with a specific dollar amount with them. It's just that they have special funds that are available to support operations like this. At this stage of the game, we're still in discussion with them. But it did sound like they did have special funding that is available for projects such as this.
So you're asking us for 5,000?
Yes, sir.
I had a question.
Certainly.
The assessment that you're talking about, now, once that assessment's complete, can you use that assessment to also get state and federal historical tax credits?
Yes, because what this will do is give us an idea of, are there any structural issues that we have to be concerned about? You know, is the building going to collapse on top of us if we don't do something? And so those kinds of assessments, they're archaeological, they're architectural, and as well as historical measurements, and you know, so it, and at that point, then we can use those assessments to go in and request funds through grants and that type of thing. And this is where we're really hoping that we can take advantage of the grant writer here at the city level to assist us with those grants. Because this will be a major project, we know that.
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, long term, do you guys see this the home for the historical society as a whole? Like where it's at now, instead of at the Board of Education now, would it be there, or is it just gonna be a?
Well, I think that we would probably, and I can't speak specifically for, you know, the board, but I would envision that we would keep our offices there in the current location. And the main reason is that we have so much material there that where would we put it down there? And that's been one of the problems with moving everything out of there. It had become basically a warehouse for the Historical Society. and rather than being used for its normal purpose, or what it should be used for, as a, like I say, as a historical location in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I will next go over the budget narrative. There's been some updates that came after our last meeting. So no changes have been made to the proposed revenue. Under personnel, the salary and benefits for the administrative assistant for the city clerk and city manager has now been split to reflect, it should be the other way around, my apologies. It's 75% for the city clerk, 75%, or 25% for the city manager. Included a line for contractual services for the final month of the 6-month period for the economic development consultant for $3,500. So we had that discussion last time about accurately reflecting that position. Those 6 months predominantly actually fall in this year's budget, so we'll do a budget revision for those 5 months, and then this reflects the 6 month, and that's what Councilman Howe was referring to last meeting. Personnel services has been reduced 1 month for the full-time economic development director, which is what I just spoke about. We removed the funds in the line for billboard advertising, the amount of $11,600, and on-call planning services in the amount of $35,000. And I actually couldn't find what that was for under economic development, so thank you for, I believe it was the mayor who asked that question, so that was a great catch. Reduce the lines for education meeting registrations from $5,000 to $1,000, and other dues and subscriptions from $15,000 to $1,000. Again, that was either Councilman Howe or the mayor. Again, thank you for finding those. We included a line for $15,000 to be used towards purchasing the statues at the Survivor Tree site. I think this is an important project to highlight in Clarksburg. We do have that survivor tree. Those are very rare. We were blessed enough, based on the advocacy of the mayor, to get that for the city. And I think having that statue there of our emergency services worker, fire, police, and ambulance would be a great asset. We have money left this year in the beautification funds, and next year we'll have, I think we should allot some money from the beautification funds. There's always some money in the account, and I'm going to be talking to the grant writers to see if there's somewhere we can apply for some contributions, and I'm hoping we can start some sort of an online campaign to fundraise from the community for that.
Is there a zero missing here? I thought it was supposed to be 150.
The total
No,
price.
there's not a zero missing.
Not
I
the
thought there might have-
beautification
might have
fund.
been- there might have
No.
been
Yeah, the sense, these funds, will they go back into the general fund?
What do you mean?
These monies that you found saved?
Yes,
Go back into the general?
yes, for the previous ones. Yeah. The library will be allotted their usual percentage share based on the assessed value for the 2024 year, and grants will be pursued for the necessary renovations of the Waldemar, which I will speak more of further in the binder. There's been a line item for $35,000 that has been added for the part-time position at the Waldemar. However, I do want to talk to council about this. I've asked the city attorney to do some investigation. I would really like to understand the ownership of the Waldemar. Is it owned by the city and run by the library? Is it owned by the library and run by the library? Is the city supposed to be running it? And if there is some sort of a past practice, I do think we need to put that into a written agreement so it's clear to the public and transparent on how that process actually works. So I don't think it's a bad thing to add the $35,000 into the budget for a person for the Waldemar. However, I would put the caveat on that you hold off on expending that money until we understand how that process actually works, and get some input from council and the library board and the stakeholders to figure that process out. And I wanted to know council's thoughts on that.
It was always my understanding, we own we own the Waldemar. We do the repairs, the maintenance. Now, the part about who's in charge there, I always thought it was the library. Am I right?
And I don't think any of that's in writing anywhere. And I think we need to have those, council and the library board need to have those conversations to figure it out and put it in writing. Because in 10 years, when there's other people sitting around this table, it needs to be clearly laid out how that relationship works.
Okay.
The Historical Society is allotted $2,500, and grants will be pursued in aid of the future renovation plans. So when we received the number from the Historical Society, it was actually quite different. I believe it was $40,000 for renovations. In light of the presentation we heard tonight, I'm suggesting we up this to $5,000, and I've put money in the capital 5-year plan for the Historical Society home, but that would be dependent on grants, and I think we can absolutely make our grant writer available, but I think a contribution towards that plan is a really good one. I think all of council is very supportive of preserving Clarksburg's history, so I think that amendment should be made if council's all right with that.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that about 6 years ago, we redid the front steps.
Longer than that.
Was it longer than that? With no help from the county.
Yeah, and I'm going to also advocate to the county that they support that. It may be in the city of Clarksburg, but it's also in Harrison County, and I think contributions need to come from both government entities.
I just worry that the long-term plan isn't, there with them. We've got to be on the same page with them, and instead of, putting all this effort and money into it and try to get the support of the county as well, because it is definitely an important building, but it needs a lot of money. And to do it, historically restore it with, through historical's money, then we have to spend a lot of money.
Well, and that's one of the, and I'll go through and explain the 5-year capital plan that we put together. But a lot of that is dependent on grant funding. However, I do agree that we perhaps should have a meeting with the Historical Society and come out with an actual document that lays out the future plans going forward in regards to preservation and renovation. I think that's very important to have as well, so the public understands, because there may be fundraising that goes along with that. They need to understand what the plan for that building is if they are going to contribute towards fixing it.
I see that the same as the library in Walmart, like we have to meet and have plans moving
Agreed.
forward, long-term plans, and get things down on paper, and get things in working order, and just for long-term.
Agreed. The contribution of $500 to the literacy volunteers of Harrison County has been removed, as we have notified it no longer exists. A line for the contribution to the West Virginia Italian Heritage Festival has added to the amount of $2,000. And unbudgeted, and then the repairs to the city building has been.
Wait. Why did we jump $36,000 on the unbudgeted contingencies?
Because of the savings we made on the first page that we found from economic development. The on-call planning services, 35,000, and then the billboard advertising of 11,600. So it's just the difference between the savings and then the other items we added.
Sorry.
Oh, no, don't apologize.
Sorry, Mark.
The financial stabilization rainy day fund is 1.46 million, there's been no changes. Under sales and use tax fund, corrected the line for contributions to general fund from 1.5 to $2 million to match the general fund budget. We discussed that last meeting. And reduced the contingencies from 777,000 to 277 due to the errant contributions, which we discussed last meeting. No changes have been made to the RG fund, the police fine escrow fund, and the excess levy fund. Now we're going to skip down to your 10th tab, which is the 5-year capital plan, because these are just the documents that reflect the changes that were made that we just went over. So one of the things I noticed when I was going through budget, it should be a gray tab, second gray tab that you have. It's
right there.
It's right there,
At the top.
the
Yes,
big
yep.
sheet, yes sir. So I believe that it's very important for us to plan as a government entity. My understanding is there hasn't been a 5-year capital plan done for the city of Clarksburg previously. So what this document does is it lays out all your capital plan for the next 5 years from every department of projects that are non-operational over a certain threshold. I did this for the Parks Department as well, so I wanted to thank Deb for that. if you'll notice at the top right corner where it says additional information, it says it indicates account for grant match funds. So for instance, under the Waldemore, let's say out of that $600,000 that I allotted, we were able to get a 90-10. That 10% that the city would have to contribute would come from the levy fund. If you go down halfway down the green where it says taser guns, when it has a number and then 3 asterisks after it, that means the item total indicates if a grant is denied or not found. We still need that equipment, so it would be paid out of that account. So we've applied for the grant for the tasers. If we are not successful in getting that grant, that $30,000 is going to come out of the escrow fund. But what this document allows us to do is identify grants and identify the accounts that this would be paid out of over the next 5 years. This document can change as stuff arises, things can move around. For instance, if Public Works says, you know what, I can put off my street sweeper for 2 years, but I need a leaf loader this year, we can move those around. But this is a great planning document for budgeting purposes in the city.
The Verkada cameras wasn't, and I may be off base here, but wasn't that what we just approved?
Yes, so that's this year, that I added a line in for 2023, 24 to reflect what we've done this year, or it's upcoming in the next few months to the end of the fiscal budget year.
But wouldn't that, the source of funds be the opioid settlement money and not the levy? Or am I mistaken?
I agree.
And you know what, Kim, we should add the opioid,
Right.
because we had to make its own account, so thank you. That is accurate.
What is this city hall rooftop unit? 500,000?
So, is John here?
So what that is that's your heating and air conditioning unit that sits on the roof of this building. It was installed when the building was built. Last year we did about $30,000 repairs to it, $50,000 repairs to it about 10 years ago. It was getting obsolete. Our contractor that services that was telling me that it's going to be replaced probably within the next 5 years. It's looking at about $500,000 by the time you set a crane up in the parking lot. To lift that unit off the roof, so unit up there. So what I'm looking at is to try to build an escrow account over the next few years, set money aside, like you should, a little bit of time. So when it comes to that point, we'll have an escrow account, we'll pay to put that all out in the summer. So eventually we're gonna have to replace that. If you remember last summer, we had a couple of weeks, we didn't have AC in the building because the unit was down.
It's a huge number.
You need the escrow, you need to start building escrows in your budget for these big ticket items. You put money away every year, to build an escrow fund like that.
Is there any questions about this document?
I don't see anything with the Robertson grant.
The Robinson Grant doesn't have any big plans for any capital purchases that would fit under here or repairs as of yet. If that comes up during the year, we can add it in, but so far there isn't
I
anything.
know we kind of talked about things around the Robertson grant and maybe expansion of Robertson grant, not the building, but, you know, lots next to it or close to it or in that area that we talked about.
So if you look at the line, first line under administration, there's a land and building line. So that would be the first step in acquiring properties around there, and that's the fund it would come out of. Once we create those plans and we create an economic development plan or a strategic plan for downtown, we can again amend this anytime throughout the year with a budget revision. And I would suggest that we do that as we come up with those plans to reflect. Even if it's something that we wouldn't be paying out of any of our accounts, if it's strictly grant funding, it still should be reflected in here because it's showing the state and federal government that we are planning for the future.
So that line item for land building, that's just for anything new?
Yes, acquiring new
Um,
property or new buildings.
Okay, that's just an estimate of,
Yeah, and so even if we go on a like a mortgage for a piece of land. We
Okay,
can put the deposit out of there
okay,
and then reflect the budget accurately after that.
okay.
Are we getting an appraisal on that property next to the Robinson River?
Yes, so I have about 5 or 6 appraisals I am embarking on next week, and that's one of them. Any other questions? Okay, so council, do you have general budget questions you'd like to go over? That's the binder itself.
So I had some questions, and also a couple recommendations too. So my questions first, as I look down through the total revenue from 2019 to proposed 2024, 2025, and total expenditures, I see during the COVID years, of course, that hit us hard. We had deficits. I think even in 21 and 22, we had a deficit a little over 1.3 million, in that. We rebounded pretty well, looks like in 2022, 2023, with, a little over 170,000 difference, surplus. My concern is this. So the total revenue, this is actual, well, not actual, I guess this is the projected revenues that we're going to make in 2023 and 2024, this fiscal year, is $21,690,162. The proposed revenue that we're thinking that we're going to be drawing or making for 2024, 2025 is $18,685,042. That is quite a reduction. It's a little over $3 million reduction. So my first question is with this, are we planning to get hit pretty hard with loss of revenues?
We don't have any grants budgeted into that 18 million, but there are grants in the 21 million that we've already received. So that is a large portion of that difference. I can go through and identify all of those for you. I don't know that I can do that right now, but so no, I don't think we're really going to get hit with the loss of revenue. It's just different things aren't being
Not being
recorded. Yes,
Recorded.
because
Okay.
we don't want to add in grants that we don't know if we're going to get. Sometimes there are revenues added in that we may not get the next year, like a refund on an insurance claim. And we had a large one, I think, for over $300,000 this year. So that's in the revenue, but we can't count on that because we hopefully won't have any more insurance claims.
Right.
So it's stuff like that that makes up that big number, and I can identify those for you.
Okay. Yeah, if we could just get something that identifies that way, before we pass the budget, we could look at something and say, oh, okay, that kind of looks congruent, or at least close to 2023, 2024.
Right.
So my next question is in regards to the expenditures. So from 2023, 2024 to 2024, 2025 fiscal budget, we had a reduction in expenditures of,
What page are you?
I took those from 10 of 65, which gives you your total, your total general revenue,
Last page, 65.
65, that's the total revenues versus the total expenditures of 65 of 65.
He's looking at page 10 and page 65.
Yes. So if you look at those two, we're looking at a reduction in expenditures of about a little over 2.9 million. And then my question is, how do we reduce our expenditures that much? Because when I look at the summary from the city manager of necessary increases and the summary of reductions, even with the summary of reductions, I'm only kind of adding up maybe a little over $1 million in reduction. So how do we reduce our expenditures that much to balance this budget?
Some of those also are the same thing, the grants and the insurance payments. But I can outline all those for you as well.
I think too, just not to interrupt, but in the, as far as the revenue, it would also, the contributions from the other funds, right? Would be
Right.
another large.
Exactly.
Well, I've seen that too, the
Yeah.
police and fire pensions, those of course move to, you know, this,
That's a large savings on the expense side.
right, and those move to the 1%. Sales tax was good, I factored those in too,
Oh,
but I didn't get, out of all this, I didn't get $2.9 million, so that's why I was a little concerned about. And then my next question is, what is the total expenditure, this is a number, of the 14% increase in PEIA?
I don't have that with me, but I'll get that.
Okay. And then what is the total expenditure for the West Virginia required retirement contribution increase with COLA?
I'll get that to you.
And so with that said, I mean, my concerns are with these increases, you know, with the PEIA and probably not having something in front of me that will sort of equalize some of this, some of these projected revenue losses, which I'm pretty sure once you get the information, we'll be able to have that. When it comes to adding full-time positions, I have a lot of concerns, especially mainly with the economic developer, the city planner, and the full-time engineer. I do like your suggestion of the economic developer, how we could do that on a contractual basis. Because, you know, $3,500 a month times 12 is $42,000 a year. Now, I don't know how much.
Right, but none of those are new positions being added, for the exception of, they're already in the budget for this year, so they're not even being added for next year.
They're not.
No, they're already in the budget, except for the engineers going from part-time to full-time. But when I spoke with council, that is something that council seemed to be, what council wanted. Now, do I believe that a part-time position would suffice? I do. I don't think we would find somebody, I think we're very blessed to have somebody who was near retirement, that's what he was looking for. I think it would be extremely challenging to find that again. So I've talked to HR and I'm making sure that there's duties that, for instance, the URA was run by our old economic development director. That is being put onto the city engineer now. So there will be a full scope of duty, so a full-time job makes sense. But again, these are not new positions being added to the budget causing an increase.
So the city planner's not a new position added to the budget?
My understanding is right in the charter that you guys have to have one. Now, with that being said, I don't believe we're in the position right now not a position financially not to hire one. We're not in the position to hire one in regards to actually developing the URAs, moving along the LRA. We just had our first meeting today, so I don't envision actually hiring that position for a few months. So if council would prefer to say, we can take off 6 months of that salary for the 2024-25 budget, that's fine. But keep in mind that next year you are gonna have to add to the budget to add that in. But I will not hire positions unless I feel like as a city, we are ready to send that person off and running with projects and tasks and being fully functional in that position. Do I think it's critical to have that position? Well, council gave a big push to have a land reuse agency. If you want a land reuse agency, there has to be someone to execute that. So yes, I do.
Do you think that, you know, I had that also, do we really need a full-time engineer? Are you going to get able to get somebody for $70,000 that's good?
So far, yes. We're in the process and there's a couple of really good candidates.
Is there somewhere we can find out, was there an increase in PEIA last year, 15%?
I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but
I was gonna,
give you
that'd be
those
a number we
numbers.
should look at now, just to give you an idea of maybe what, roughly what that would be. If you know, just for that.
Yeah, because my main concern is that if we're continuing to have increases in PEIA, and then we're gonna have a full-time city engineer and a full-time city planner, and we already have in the budget, a full-time economic developer, which, I have my questions on the return on investment on that. If we're gonna continue to, we're not only paying salaries, but we're also paying compensation for these folks. My question is, can some of these services be contracted out? That way, we're not having to lay people off if we're in a budget crunch 5 years from now and PEIA keeps going through the roof.
Well, I would answer that by saying, nobody can forecast the future, and in 5 years, if that's the position of the city, then that's the position of the city that council at that time will have to deal with. What I will say is, if you want the city to move forward and progress forward, you are going to have to staff the city properly with positions that are going to move the city forward. I cannot do 4 jobs. I just can't. And I'm not a planner, and I'm not an engineer. So those positions and I believe I'm understanding council was saying we want to move the city forward. There are certain positions that are critical to doing that. And I am trying to do it as fiscally responsible as possible. If you're interested in keeping the city the way it is and not seeing progress and have a declining population, then I would say don't hire anybody. If you're interested in moving the city forward and making it a vibrant city for people of all ages, for families, seniors seeing economic opportunity come into the city, you need those positions.
Well, and with that said, I mean, my question is, we're already going to, I mean, it seems to be the mood in the room that we're possibly going to give the EDC, Economic Development Corporation, over $25,000. Their director came here last week and said their office was even willing to write grants on some of these brownfield sites. We also have an EDA, Economic Development Authority in the county, that I don't really know whether we work with them or not on things. I'm thinking, we have this corporation, and we have this Economic Development Authority, okay? And now we want an economic developer on top of that. I just feel like that, we could be working with them a little bit more and get just as much of return on investment on that than what we would get from an economic developer.
I would.
In all fairness, we've had an economic developer for the last 3 years.
We have, yeah. I'm just
And if
saying,
you
I don't
look at-
think it's worth the return on investment.
Well,
And I
have we
would
been
put-
with the Economic Development Corporation for how long?
6 or 7 years, and we have
What have we seen on our return on investment there?
I think we haven't we gotta take our city in our own hands and put ourselves in a position to take advantage of that, and be ready for things that they can bring to us. We show up at the table with nothing in our pockets and saying, hey, what can you do for us?
Well, that was their excuse to me, that nobody was at the table for the last 3 years. Harry Faulkner took the seat at the table.
But even if Harry was there, we would have showed up at the table with nothing in our pockets to provide anything. We have to be ready, we have to be fully staffed, we have to be operational. we have
Well,
to
I
be
think
able
the
to real
best
time.
predictor of future behavior and future results is past results and past behavior. If you look back at the last 7 years, and I mean this with all due respect, I haven't been able to get one project that the EDC has brought Clarksburg, not one.
Okay, well, I mean, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying that, what I'm saying is that if they're coming to us this last time, and you're like, look, we got this brownfield project, in the works, and we're willing to do some of the legwork, even with writing grants, and some of the redevelopment plans, then I think we need a seat at the table, and we need to light the fire under them and say, look, if we're gonna give this $25,000 allocation, then we need you to work for us too.
I've had
That's
that
just-
conversation.
And we need to work with the Economic
And I-
Development Authority in the county level too. I think that's a big thing too.
I
Sits on that board.
Pardon?
It's the first I've heard of it this evening, so. Anybody knows who sits on that board?
I thought they gave Harris County Economic Development Corporation the lead on that. I didn't think there was another one.
I've only ever known about the EDC.
There's the authority, the Harrison Economic Development Authority, although they don't have much of a budget, they can only take care of certain things that the corporation
Do you
cannot
know who
do.
sits on that board?
I'm on that board.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying it's just worth the conversation, it's worth working with some of these folks at the economic development. And I mean, we've had economic developer for 3 years, and I, you know, personally, I haven't seen much economic development.
In all fairness, he was pulled many different places that most of the time was not in front of business to develop. I mean, he was pulled everywhere. I mean, we all saw it as we were here.
And I think he admittedly said that it wasn't really his cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yes, he
said
was
he was more
educated
the
as
planner.
a city planner, and I,
Certified planner, as far as-
if I can be candid with council, if it hadn't been going well before I was here, I would like the opportunity to turn that around and to pull resources when I am working 12, 14 hours a day, as hard as I can, to have a positive impact and change on Clarksburg, would be incredibly unfair.
Well, I will say to that if, you know, when we're thinking about these positions, that we don't really know what the return on investment's gonna be, I hope that we think about these increases in PEIA, these increases in COLAs, that we're gonna have to provide every single year. Because if we just keep hiring people, how we're gonna take care of the current people that we know we're getting a return on investment with, like our fire department, our police department, our public works, you know, how are we gonna be able to maintain that? And that's what I hope that's really considered, because you know, yeah, I may not be here in 2 years, or 5 years, or 10 years. I said, but someone else is gonna be sitting in this seat, we need to be cognizant of that.
How about this? How about we give the economic development 12-5, give them 6 months, nothing comes our way, we don't do the other 6
I don't
months.
think you can develop anything long-term, 12 to 6 months.
Well, she said the other day she had 7 things, 7 irons in the
Well, I
fire.
know, I'm saying, but, you know, then not all of them are gonna hit. I mean, but I think we have to give it a long chance in that.
But with all due respect, you know, and it's been said a few times already, you know, we can't forecast the future. And I think it was Councilwoman Wright who said before, we can't sit and wait for a situation to be perfect before we act on things. You know, we have to look and make our best judgment. And, you know, what we're doing is we're looking at, okay, we're trying to grow this thing. So as we continue to grow this thing, then, you know, our forecast and our vision is that we're going to be able to afford these. You know, PEIA isn't going away. You know, those costs are going to continue to go up. I don't see them going down anytime soon. But, you know, we have to position ourselves to continue to grow our city so that the revenue will be there so that we can continue to afford these things. You know, we have to make these moves. I mean, it may sound crazy, but you know what? No risk, no gain.
Somebody said the other day, said Clarksburg is in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. We gotta swing for the fences.
And the ball's halfway down the lane.
I would also suggest that, if council's all right with it, we do bring in the economic, or executive director of the EDC quarterly for a presentation on what they are working on for Clarksburg and where it is in the process, because I don't think that's ever been done before either. Hasn't been a whole bunch of accountability there, unfortunately. And I think if we are giving taxpayer dollars to a corporation, we do have to have accountability in some measure, and that could be if you have these 7 projects, we should at least be getting 1 out of there that you're working on. So show us what you're getting for Clarksburg, because right now,
You know, we got the land bank to buy properties.
we do.
My thing is where the rolling glass factory sits. You know, right across the river was Adamson Flat. It was a brownfield. You know, everybody uses the excuse that the rolling glass factory has arsenic in it. Adamston made the same glass that Roland did, and there's a whole row of businesses right there. So why can't we get the economic development to do something with
We
the
will have
rolling
that
glass factory?
conversation.
I mean, they can come off of Limestone Road, they don't even have to go through Northview. I mean, there's already a bridge there that goes to all the blue
Pratt
barrels.
Whitney or somebody just went in there.
Pratt Whitney just
Pratt
went.
Whitney or one of them just went in there, yeah, they're redoing that whole building down by the plant. So there's already somebody in there.
Okay, well, then we've got, at least we got where the factory was.
We did find out that the front portion that's in Northview and then the back it's two buildings technically, are actually separate titles. So, to your point, there can be development on the back, well, they look at the front where the contamination and remediation would need to happen.
But it worked for the brownfield where Addison was, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got.
Mayor?
You guys want me to start?
Can we stop you?
Sure. Page 4. Compost disposal fee and sale of materials went from 2 to 5,000. Page 4 of 65.
There's been an increase in the fees for compost.
That's the increase for the fees?
Yeah, we talked about it last year, trying to market our compost.
But we're going to
better, sell
increase
it better, right?
We are.
I heard they're sold out now.
No, we are, so I asked the Director of Public Works and our city attorney to work on increasing the compost fees. Is it the compost fees?
The fees for
Selling
dumping.
The
of
fees
it?
for dumping, because right now, anybody can dump in the city of Clarksburg, no matter where you live, and that is a service that only the residents of the city of Clarksburg are paying for. So I think there needs to be a tiered fee schedule, that there's a benefit to the citizens of Clarksburg versus everybody else that comes and dumps there. And that
Charge.
number would reflect that there would be a higher dump fee.
Should we charge people out of city?
Yes, sir.
Will, didn't you talk about last year, talking about we need to advertise it better, or was it you that brought that up?
I've never been a big proponent of it to begin with, so you're probably asking the wrong person.
We'll move on.
All right, done? Page 5, vacant property registration fee. It's going from 20 down to 10.
Because I wanted to be conservative, because it's becoming increasingly more difficult to collect those fees.
Not only that, with the demolition coming,
Too,
we're
there's
gonna have less
fewer.
of those properties as well, so we wanted to be conservative with our number rather than overpromise and underdeliver.
Why is it hard to collect it? Is there something?
Because a lot of times they actually don't live here, so it's hard to find them, and I've spoken to council about this before, and I'll speak on it again for a moment. We have a very hard time collecting fees because there is no mechanism for the city to do that, other than aggressive phone calling, which still is a voluntary process, or putting a lien on somebody's property. And a lien on somebody's property doesn't really do much unless you go to try to sell the property. We can go to take somebody to court to try to garnish their wages, but again, that's just an increased cost to the taxpayer because we have to pay those fees. I've spoken to the state, and I've spoken to the sheriff, and I've spoken to the county to try to figure out a different way. They said there's nothing in state law that would allow us to do that, but it is something that I am trying to advocate to the state to amend, because we need some other avenues to make sure we can get those fees in. In addition, we will be working with the sheriff's office to increase training. We've already started. Finance has done a great job of getting more of these fees in. There is still more work to be done, and we're increasing the training on that.
Page 7, 65. Sales and use tax fund from 3 down to 2. Is that just conservative thinking?
No, we do not plan to take 3 million from the sales tax fund. We're only asking for 2 million.
Okay.
Just trying to.
And down at the bottom, interest on deposits.
Yes, we have an agreement with our current bank, MVB, and then they've raised our interest rate to 4.49%, and that will be for a year. That was for a year, and we're going to go back out to bid for another banking proposal.
So the interest rate was very, very low.
Yes.
During the last couple of years, like
0.05.
0.0 something. This is back up to almost 5%, so it's just a direct reflection of that change from the bank.
Okay. 9, West Virginia State Auditor, West Virginia Purchasing Card Rebate. What is that? I don't know what that is.
When we use our P cards, our purchasing cards, we get a rebate from the state
Okay.
on those purchases.
Use more.
Oh, my goodness. Page 11. Education and meeting registration fees and other dues and subscriptions. They're going from 5 and 15,000 down to 1,000.
Yeah, so that's, when I went over the, budget narrative, those were a couple of questions that came up last time. We're not sure why our old employee had those in there. We weren't using them, so to reflect accurately, we took them out.
Okay, thank you. Next page, land reuse agency property acquisition funding,
Yes, so we put that from,
40,000 to 161.
yes, so that is we moved money from the URA, from the revision, and I believe that's a reflection of the capital, that was the 150 that we talked about, is that correct?
That, we took that money from the loans that are gonna be paid?
Yes. So that's to acquire, like we talked about, buildings downtown, land, expanding.
Okay, and then next page, match FEMA grant. We're going from 0 to 25,000. What is that?
I believe that was just an error that 25 was left out in the first place. I believe we've either been approved for that grant or I think city council approved that.
Yes,
match.
that's the match, and I sent that out on that update last week on that email.
Okay.
Grants.
I'm getting down, guys, so. 19, Encode software fees.
So,
It's an increase of 20,000.
yes, so what we're doing in finance now, so when we talked about time entry, I talked to council about that. And we are looking to have it so B&O taxes, people can register online and pay B&O taxes online to make it less cumbersome on finance department. Those are for upgrades to Encode. We had another demo from another company, and they wanted to charge about $70,000 to $80,000 annually for the software. So we found this was the most cost-effective way to go about it since we're already using Encode.
Okay. 28. The annual employee mandatory drug testing. It's going from 10,000 to 0.
It's coming out of coal severance now.
Alcohol severance.
Yes.
You guys are still getting drug tested, don't worry about it.
Oh, now we're putting a special one with your CDL.
And under personal services up above, human resources.
Yep.
23, 24, most of it was zeroed out, and then 24, 25 is $89,811.
We still had the employee, she was being paid out of a different fund. She was in finance department for a while. So she was being paid out of finance, now she's moved to her own department.
Okay. Next page, asbestos testing sampling services, doubled.
So, because of the grant funding from the DEP, we are looking to demo as many houses and buildings as we can this year with that funding, as long as it meets the criteria, and we're doing all our asbestos testing up front for that, and that's why.
You know, I have an idea.
Okay?
I think we should take a couple city employees from Public Works, send them to training for asbestos abatement, and instead of, contracting this out, get a couple, our men from Public Works and get them certified.
I will look into what goes into that certification.
I think we talked about it before.
I think,
It would save some money.
absolutely.
I think
This is not a bank. This what you're saying, this is not a bank. This is going into construction and pulling samples, taking them to a lab and having them tested for asbestos. That's what this is. This is not a bank.
Okay. Yep, all right.
Just like an engineering fee we pay.
It's an engineering company that does it.
Okay, thank you. I still like that idea, though.
I'll talk to Public Works and engineering about that.
On that same page, under house demolition, we
Mhm.
go from 200 to 0, if that's coming out of somewhere.
That's because we have a grant.
Okay. All right, just while we were on that page, I wanted to ask that.
Page 33. We go from 84,705 to 0 next budget, next year.
On what line?
Under personnel services,
Okay.
salaries, wages, annual sick
So-
leave, Christmas bonus.
The reason why is right now we're contracting it out. So it's the same as the economic development person, instead of it being reflected under personnel, it's under the contract fee. And then when we, if we go back to hiring somebody or we keep contract, we'll do a budget revision to reflect if we have to go back to an actual person in that role.
Okay.
And where's that fee reflected under contractual?
It's actually, it's maybe the wrong page. It's on page 34, it's actually under capital outlay for Advantage software, so it
Under,
needs-
where it says help desk,
Oh, okay.
line 015,
it needs to move up to or to,
that's the
The
contract.
contract.
Yeah.
So it went from 4,400 to 90.
Yes.
Okay.
What page?
Page 50. Totals down at the bottom on street department, we're going from 2,230,100 to 1,553,068. Clear at the bottom of page 50.
The street sweeper has moved, and that's why. Let me go check the capital. I believe that's why.
but it's all those, the street sweeper, the plow trucks, all those at the bottom of page 50, they're all gonna be purchased this year, 23, 24, so they're not budgeted next year. So they total about almost $1 million.
Yeah, and that is on your 5-year capital, you'll see it's moved to this year instead of next year.
Okay, page 52. Under personnel services, there's a $105,000 increase from this year to next year.
I believe we had an employee under the incorrect Department of Public Works, so they moved him back to traffic.
We also had some movement where job classifications
Right.
changed, and that's just to reflect that change. So the budget didn't change, just which department they're under in Public Works changed in here.
So you may see a decline in either street department or vehicle maintenance or one of those.
Okay, page 59. Compost. We budgeted 187,659 this year, and we're up to 194,834 for next year. How many people work over there?
Four.
John, how many people work over there?
Including employees and contracts.
4?
And that was probably just the change in their classification that we did this year. Well, plus the 4% increase.
65, well, I think we went over this. Oh, yeah, well, page 65, Clarksburg Visitor Bureau, CVB. We're going from 130,250 to 172.
That is a direct reflection of the hotel motel tax that we take in, so we estimate that at 50% of that number. So we had to estimate the hotel motel tax.
The state, so that budget will fluctuate every year depending on the projected revenues from hotel motel tax. Because whatever the 50% is from hotel motel tax, we have to give the CVB and then we have to match. So, the hotels in Clarksburg have done really well, exceptionally well, actually, especially the Hilton Garden and up on Emily Drive. So that reflects that increase in our revenues that we got from that, from the hotels.
Okay. Summary of the city manager approved request. What's this $105,000 new software? difference from, um,
What color is it?
Tyler Encode software, maybe?
which one is it?
The finance one, the green one?
Are you talking about the Tyler Encode software for, in finance?
Yeah, in finance, yeah.
That's the current amount, that's just the additional encode, so the total went up. But we didn't spend that much on software.
We currently have 110 budgeted, and we're just adding 20 to make it 130.
All right, I think that's it for me.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. I had a question, I think it was on page 53.
The aerial lift bucket truck, was that purchased this year?
It will be, it hasn't been purchased yet.
Okay. So that's why it goes from 400 to 0. Okay.
Any other questions from council? So if there's no other questions on the budget, I do want to ask what the consensus of council is. We have the information Councilman Worth has asked for, we'll get that out via email. If nobody has any questions from that, the only real revision that we have is increasing that 2,500 to 5,000 for the History Museum. So does council want to have another budget meeting, or would you like me to put it next council meeting to vote on, or the council meeting in the middle of? I'm not sure, like, it would be nice if all of council is here to do it next week, because Councilmember Wright's a baby's coming, and I think,
Let the fire department, that should come to council meeting. It's the first baby they delivered, huh?
Rescue truck.
I mean, if there's not going to be any drastic changes, I don't think, do we need to meet again?
I don't think we need to be.
Will, what do you think?
I think we can probably move on with it. You know, I share some of Wayne's concerns, but overall, I think I agree with Mark too. I mean, we gotta swing, and you know, I think I have my concerns, but it's nothing that a budget revision can't handle. You know, if we hit a roadblock, if we hit another communicable disease like
Don't
COVID,
say it.
you know, we can adjust.
That's
I
one
think
time.
I think we have the ability to do that. I think we have the staff and the wherewithal to make revisions. And if we have problems, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. You know, I think you guys have heard me say 100 times, it kind of bewilders me that the city's budget continues to increase. And I know that's mainly due to inflation. Obviously, things are getting more expensive. Revenues increase because revenues, you know, taxes increase, and, you know, the cost of it, doing business goes up everywhere. So, you know, that's gonna happen, but, you know, I do have some concerns, like Wayne does, when it comes to staff, and, you know, we continue to operate on, you know, I don't want to be so negative, but, you know, that's, you would think, as the city loses population, we would adjust with that in our budget, but it doesn't seem that we do that. But I do trust Kim, and I do trust Tiffany to make the right decisions going forward, so I'm ready to move on it, if you guys are ready to move on it.
Yeah, absolutely, and, you know, and I can understand, you know, everyone's concerns. The thing is, if we continue to do what we did, we're gonna continue to get what we got. You know, we've been sitting still, we need to move the city forward, you know, and so, you know, Tiffany's working hard, we need to make sure that we put a team around her and allow her to do the job that, you know, she's capable of doing. And we're sitting here, you know, we're making decisions. You know, in the end of the day, we're gonna have to make a decision, you know, when she comes to us with these things. So, you know, we have to do what's necessary. You know, we told the people, we're gonna move Clarksburg forward. We're gonna reinvigorate, revitalize our city. You know, let's do it. Yeah, it's a little nerve wracking, but you know what, that's what we're here for. That's what they elected us for.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Mr. Comer from the Park Board and Ian from the Robinson Grant over here. Did you guys want to speak? Or? I didn't know you guys, actually just saw you, so I'm sorry. Jerry, what do you think?
I mean, I think we gotta invest in our future.
I mean, do you think we need another budget meeting? Or
I think we're good.
you think we're good? Patty?
Yeah, I think we're good. My only question would be on, as far as the requests we received, are these contributions the ones that you recommend
Yes.
we move forward with?
Yes.
Okay.
And the other ones that we talked about, I think we definitely need a strategic planning meeting with those.
Those two groups.
Organizations.
Yes.
And
The
have a plan
Baltimore
where we do-
Library and the Historical Society.
Yeah.
So not just throw money away without knowing.
Agreed.
And we also need to have regular updates from the Harrison County.
So council's all right with
Economic
requesting those?
Court. Yeah, I think so.
Blaine?
Yeah, I'm ready to move forward. I mean, I have my concerns because I really value the current employees that we have. And I want to make sure they're taken care of for a while. And, because they really do a lot of good work. And, but I believe we could find some balance in that. And like Councilman Hyman said, if we hit that fork in the road, then we have to make those tough decisions. A little more of a fiscal conservative, and I, you know, just believe that the budget's probably the most important thing that we do all year. And we have to be really cognizant of how we spend the taxpayers' money and make sure that the basic services that we provide for the city, you know, are being taken care of, and that the folks that are providing those basic services have the tools that they need to. Yes, I'd love to see our city grow forward, and I've been to every city in the state of West Virginia, and I've seen how they've grown forward, and at the end of the day, you gotta have the money for it too. So if we do, and if we don't, then we'll have to burn that bridge when we get there.
Cross that bridge. We're not burning.
So, Ms. Bell, you're going to get the EDU guy in here, the economic EDC?
EDC, that would be Miss Amy Wilson.
Would that be, oh, I thought you said there was another economic.
The authority.
The authority.
The authority doesn't get really involved in the actual development of Harrison County.
Do they have
It's-
a charter? Like a charter or bylaws or
Authority
something? Uh-huh.
bylaws,
I
probably.
think you could hook us up.
Actually, once
It's the EDC that's very, very
Yeah, once
active.
they
Right.
came in play, the authority kind of took a back seat, and they just do things that the corporation doesn't have
You said
to.
something besides you?
Yeah, there's somebody from each municipality
Oh.
as a representative. I can get you the.
I mean, going back to that, it's a little unfair to blame the EDC on everything. We don't have the airport. We don't have the interstate, although, you know, we border with Emily Drive, right? But, you know, Clarksburg just doesn't have the thing that some of the other municipalities have. You know, we gotta deal with that or make it happen ourselves. So, it's, you know, it's a little, we don't wanna throw the baby out with the bathwater with the EDC. I mean, that's just.
No,
how I look at
I
it.
don't believe so, but, I mean, I think, don't you think it's about time we saw some?
Yeah.
To Jerry's point, I think that's something we have to demand. I mean, and I know we've demanded it, but have we sat down, have we broke bread with them? You know, I think it's something we need,
Well, I
with
communicate
meetings,
with
with
them.
quarterly meetings or whatever,
Yeah,
maybe
I
we can
think-
make that happen.
I
But
think that's a good start. And I agree with you. I don't think we could put all the blame on anybody. I think it's just a combination of a bunch of things. And in the end, if economic development has suffered for the past 8, 10, 15 years, the buck stops with the city manager in reality. And that's just where it ends. That this seat, the role I fill, I'm responsible, you're responsible for setting policy and procedure, I'm responsible for executing that. So if there hasn't been communication, if people haven't shown up, in the end, it falls in my lap to be responsible for.
And to throw in also, you know, when we were at the municipal league, you know, we had a chance to go down and speak with some of our delegates, you know, and we haven't been fostering very good relationships down in Charleston. And that's one of the things that we really need to get on the ball. We need to get down there, get working with our delegates, regardless of who it is or what anybody's party or belief or whatever it is. We need to be down there talking to individuals, because when these projects come up, we need to make sure that Clarksburg's name is at the top of that list. We need to let them know, look, we're ready to put work in. So, we have to get back down there, and, I think being down there at the Municipal League was actually a very good start, and we need to make sure that we continue to do that.
When we talk about return on investment, we were told we left all that money right on the table. I mean, years and years of paying this economic developer, I mean, we could pay him for 10 years as much money we left on that table. I mean, I thought you were gonna throw up there in that one meeting, I was like, when you heard that. We're all like, that much money, like, that pays for it all, in that position, would be on top of all of it.
I mean, you gotta remember too, until the last 2 years, we really haven't had direct representation in Charleston, in the House or the Senate. There was no member of House, it's been a while since a member of the House has been from Clarksburg. And so, hopefully that'll change with Ms. Petito, but, she's gotta get her feet wet too, I'm sure.
We had a good conversation.
Your seat was right.
We met with her, talked to her for a couple hours.
We had a good conversation with the gentleman from the governor's office as well. It was very enlightening.
She signed on for the Form Energy Act, or the Form Energy Bill for the battery place up in, Ohio County or Marshall County. It's like, let's focus down here.
Well, I've been in contact with her since we got back from Charleston. There are several bills that are right now, there's the one bill that helps individuals get their driver's license once they are released from incarceration. The goals program that we talked about down in the jails, they actually already have implemented that program in the North Central Regional Jail, and we're working right now to try to get with Military Affairs to see if we can get a tour set up to find out more about that program. And actually just passed me a thing. It shows a little more about a new piece of legislation that addresses the trespassing that goes on. So, there's some things that are happening. We have to stay abreast of it, stay in contact with them. If they're not calling us, then we need to be calling them.
I would like to have Ms. Brittany here next council meeting to give us an update on grant splits.
Make sure she's here.
Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I have one more thing. I mean, it's about relationships, folks. We have to, we left all that money on the table, Jerry, and I think, and maybe I'll put this task on our city manager, because she's really wanting to take a lot of responsibility on this, and she's a go-getter, and I really admire her work, I really do. Although I'm a pain in the ass sometimes, but I think we need to have our delegation, Ben Queen, Mickey Tito, folks that represent Clarksburg at the state level, and not just during the session. When you go down during the session and talk to them, it's already too late. You gotta get to them during interims, and there's been a lot of times that, even Ben has reached out to me and said, hey, you need anything, let me know. But with that said, we gotta have a plan too. We gotta come together, have some work sessions saying, okay, we want this, and this is how much it's gonna cost. And if it's something that we could get representation from our House of Delegates member and our senator from, then we need to have them here with a plan saying, this is what we want. During the interims, not during session. So it's definitely something to think about.
Anyone else? Kim? Ms. Bell? Jerry? Chief? Dawn? No, we passed you, your time's up.
I would just put out to council, I know this is a bit different, budget, I ran it a bit different than what council has done in the past. If you have suggestions on how to do it next year, how you think I can improve, please email those to me. Because I want to make it as efficient and clear as possible to council, to make it easy for yourselves and transparent to the public. That was my goal with the budget this year, so.
Okay. We're adjourned. Not bad. Not bad. All right.
Well, I think we said